Hello, everyone. This lecture is on the church, kind of history of the church positions and power structures and all that. Um, like, where did this position of deacons and priests and bishops originate? Where did that come from? It came from just, Christian history. Um, so you have the 12 apostles. Peter is kind of seen as the head of the apostles, the spokesperson, the chief spokesperson, the one who dialogues with Jesus the most. James and John and the rest of the 12. And then you have Paul. Paul's not one of the original 12 apostles, but he is regarded as an apostle nonetheless. They are all preaching about Jesus to the world following Jesus' death somewhere in the early 30s AD. The 12 apostles initially stay in Jerusalem, and thus they are preaching to fellow Jews about Jesus as the Messiah. The temple, the Jewish temple, that is the existent power structure upon which the early followers of Jesus, the 12 apostles, kind of model the power within their own community. There's no need to reinvent the wheel, if you will. So what's the already existent power structure that they're used to as Jews in Jerusalem? The temple, the Jewish temple, even though they've kind of abandoned it somewhat to a certain degree since they're following Jesus now as the Messiah. This is kind of what they'll model it after itself, because it's already there. So the high priest leads the Jewish temple. James kind of takes that position of leadership for the early Christians, because Peter and John and the other 12, they kind of eventually leave Jerusalem and go out into what we call Europe today, the Mediterranean world, to preach about Jesus. And then underneath the high priest, there are obviously elders, officers, elders who kind of help administer the needs of the church, the logistical needs of the temple, the high priest. And that's where we get the term prebyteros, the elders in Greek, positions of authority underneath the high priest. And that's what James will have himself as the leader of the Christian community. He will have presbyteros, elders, helping him. So that structure of high priest, and even though he wasn't called a high priest himself, and church elders is modeled after the Jewish temple, something they're accustomed to. So you have presbyteros from this whole structure of the Jewish temple. Paul is a little more loosely organized because he is not stationary. He is itinerant. He's traveling all around the Mediterranean, getting, followers. Don't inflate the numbers. As he's traveling from city to city, he's not getting a lot. What he's doing is illegal. Technically, his Christianity is eventually going to be illegal in the Roman Empire because it's just so countercultural, as we discussed from the timeline. In his absence, as he leaves a city, as he departs to go to another city, the homeowner is in charge. There's no separate building with a bell tower. This is illegal. So you're meeting at someone's house with a cover story. So guess who's going to be in charge of that new Christian community in Paul's absence? The homeowner. They're taking the most risk. Everyone is, but they're taking the most. So the homeowner is in charge. The homeowner becomes the benefactor, the leader, the overseer, and that in Greek would be episkopos. And then they have ministers that help them serve whatever needs that they have, especially the communal meal, the communion service, the food gathering, and that would be the minister, the server. In Greek, that would be diakonos. This all fits perfectly in Greco-Roman society. Part of your social life was being associated with different guilds and clubs, being a member of a certain society, of different clubs, whatever your cultural life you were associated with, your station in life. And you would meet at someone's home and have a communal feast and meal together. That fits perfectly into the Christian community as well and helps them with their cover. So, well, we're meeting for this purpose or that purpose to cover up the true Christian meaning and intended objective behind their meaning. But the overseer, the homeowner, was in charge, the episkopos, and then the diakonos was served underneath them, the minister, the server of the meal, the diakonos. We get the word bishop, all right, from episkopos, episcopal, and we get the word deacon from diakonos. And eventually we get the word priest from the Jerusalem presbyteros as well. These last points here is this basically the historical merging together of the Jerusalem Church of the Apostles, eventually led by James, since Peter and John and the rest leave, and then the Paulist churches around the Mediterranean world as he's preaching to non-Jews. In Rome, the Bishop of Rome, the Episkopos of Rome, the Bishop of Rome Clement, which would be an early pope for Catholics. The Bishop of Rome is always the Pope for Catholics. Around 195 CE, he combines the Jerusalem and Paulist church offices into a binary two-fold structure. The bishops and presbyteros is the same office at the top, and the diakonos, this lower secondary office, are the deacons, serving the bishops at the presbyteros. Ignatius, the episkopos, the bishop of Antioch, creates a three-tier tertiary system of a bishop at the top, and it's only one bishop, so it's one bishop, and since it's one, sometimes that's called monarchical. And then the secondary structure is the presbyters, the priests who serve the bishop, and then underneath the presbyters, the third and lowest church office would be the deacons, many deacons who serve several priests, presbyteros who serve the one bishop, the one episkopos. So the bishop comes from the episkopos, the overseer, the homeowner, in the Paulist Greek churches, Greco-Roman churches. The presbyteros, the priests, came from the Jerusalem church, the elders. And then the diakonos did come from the Paulist churches as well, serving the episkopos, the homeowner, the owner of the secretive Christian house churches throughout the Greco-Roman world, throughout the Mediterranean world. Ignatius merged them, and he created a three-tier system. And that's the system, the three tiers of a one monarchical episkopos or bishop, several presbyteros or priests, and then several diakonos or deacons. That's the system that kind of spread with Polycarp in Smyrna, the bishop of Smyrna, Onesimus, the bishop of Ephesus, Anicetus, the bishop of Rome, and many other examples. And you still see that as the organizational, institutional church structure of power in these church offices for Catholics today and Orthodox today, and for some Protestants, though not all, in their own geographical, delineated, demarcated borders and lines of, perhaps you hear the word diocese that's used by some Christians like Catholics and Lutherans and a couple others. But so these church offices come straight from Christian history with Jerusalem and the Paulist communities that St. Paul established on his travels throughout the Mediterranean world as well. All right, everyone. So a little review of church power and structure with bishops, priests, and deacons, episkopos, presbyteros, and diakonos for your Greek terms there. But all right, everyone, have a great day.